Hey everyone, welcome back to the Travel Mug podcast. It's getting warmer and warmer and lighter outside, and we are very, very excited. And so we want to talk about hiking, which Megan and I have done some hiking, but we are not experts. So we decided to bring on someone who knows a lot more than we do and talk about overnight hiking and hiking in Nova Scotia and the Maritimes. So welcome back, Deb, to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Personal trainer, hiker extraordinaire, hiker obsessed.
Hiker obsessed. Maybe not hiker extraordinaire, but hiker obsessed. Absolutely.
We're so excited to have you back. You were here with us probably just over a year ago talking about staying healthy while traveling. And so we'll link that in the show notes if you want to check out her first episode. But welcome. Let's talk about hiking. First, tell us why you love hiking so much.
Okay, first, little backstory. My parents were hikers. They really enjoyed hiking. And when I was a teenager, I thought they were crazy. I could not understand at all, why would you want to leave the beautiful confines of our nice cozy home and go into the middle of nowhere and just walk? Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
right.
Until I had children and teenager and a pandemic hit, and I started to get out a lot more. When I lived in Alberta, I did get out quite a few times hiking, at least going for walks in nature, not as much backpacking.
Yeah.
But when the pandemic hit here in Nova Scotia, I just thought that was a perfect time to just get out and explore the province more. My children were getting a little bit older. They didn't need me as much to be around, and I took that opportunity to get out of the house at least once or twice a week and to discover Nova Scotia, and I fell in love with it. The coastlines and in the middle of the woods, and there was so much variety. There's waterfalls everywhere you go. There's ATV trails or a wooded trail, and they always lead to something really amazing. I mean, some of our coastal hikes were just breathtaking, and all I wanted to do when I got home was go again. It's just I want to. Okay, where's the next one? Where's the next one? Where are we going next time? And it was that combination of taking care of myself, getting out, exercise, being able to explore and just discovering new things. And it's just so addictive, so addictive.
So does that meme that goes around now apply to you, where people are like, I'm going on a stupid walk for my stupid mental health? And so now is that what it is for you, but it's hiking?
No, now for me, it's I'm going on a hike and I gotta plan this and I have to do this and I can't wait to do this. And I'm kind of crazy addicted. It's a little silly. Like I said, I was never a big hiker, and the day hikes is what started it for me, and then I wanted more. Right, and the only way to do more besides getting up every morning and going was the world of backpacking. Right. And I started to absorb any bit of information. I started getting books, I started watching YouTube videos, I started listening to podcasts, whatever I could about backpacking throughout all of, I would say, winter of 2020 and spring 2021. And I just went, okay, I've done enough research. Now I need to just get out there and go and do it. And I had nobody to go with at first. I had a couple people, we were talking about it, but nothing was ever solidified, like we have to do this. And I met an absolutely amazing lady on a Nova Scotia hiking group. And I told her what my plan was, and I told her I just needed somebody with a bit of experience. I'm not completely inept. I'm comfortable in the woods. I'm comfortable hiking. I'm physically fit. I said, I just need somebody to go with me for that initial overnight, just in case. And right. This stranger said yes to me, and she is now one of my best friends, and she is the best hiking partner anybody could ever ask for. And it just goes to show sometimes just kind of go for it.
I love that. Like the power of the internet, that you're like, here's this stranger. Be like, do you want to go hiking together?
Yeah. Would you like to go in the middle of nowhere with some stranger? I promise I'm not an axe murderer.
That's how this podcast started. Would you like to go on this podcast adventure? Sure.
Megan and I didn't know each other really. So, and I was like, hey, do you want to do a podcast?
I mean, it's
And
not
you
the
know
middle
what?
of the woods, but still.
The best things can come out of just going for it. And I firmly believe that now more than ever. Since I've started this, more than ever, it's just, I'll open up All Trails app on my phone and I'll just pick a trail and I said, let's go. I don't know what the trail's like. We won't know until we get there. And I just go and yeah, found some pretty amazing spots.
Oh, that's so funny. So let's talk about what
Yes.
goes into planning an overnight trip, because for us,
Yes.
like doing a day trip, there's not that much planning that you have to do. There's a little bit. So talk us through like how you plan an overnight trip.
First thing is figuring out where you're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
So in Nova Scotia, we have some provincial parks and federal parks. So we have Ketchimacook and we have Chignecto that have backcountry hiking trails where you have to book campsites. So
Right.
you need to start off with figuring out, okay, when, where, how long, right? If you just, and I always recommend just starting with a one night, finding somewhere where it's, a few kilometers in, you set up, that way if anything goes wrong, it's not too far to come back out of it.
Yeah.
So start with a one night. And I do recommend picking one of the parks where you can book a backcountry site. So you know that there's a site designated for you. And it usually has a platform and it usually has some firewood and a fire pit and a picnic table. So it's kind of, you're not going completely out into the wilderness on your
Right.
very first trip.
Yeah.
So pick something like that where you can do those. So that would be the biggest thing first, is figuring out how long, where you want to go, and then what do you have to book. Unfortunately, with a lot of the provincial and federal campgrounds, they have a booking day that registration opens up and you have thousands and thousands of people. When I logged on for the provincial one, I was 4,600 in line and I was on a half an hour before registration started.
Didn't that just happen like last week or
Last
the week
week.
before? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was 46 and it took about a half an hour because they just put you into a random queue, which is honestly probably one of the best ways. I can't think of any other way to do it fairly.
Yeah.
So I was logged in ahead of time. And then when 9 o'clock popped open, it said, you're 4601 in line. I think it was something like that. And I went, okay. So I'm going to do a little bit of work and just wait. And it took about a half an hour for me to get on. So, I mean, so that's the only thing with a lot of the provincial and federal is that things book up.
Mm-hmm.
But do
So
you find that, Deb, with the backcountry sites too? Are those booked?
Wow.
All of Keji backcountry is pretty much booked for the entire summer.
Wow.
What I do recommend though is going on either Facebook groups that are designated for last minute cancellations. There is a Facebook group that's there, and then the actual Chignecto Facebook group, Keji Facebook groups, because a lot of time people will pop on and say, I need to cancel my reservation. I can transfer it to somebody else. So that's the nice thing about the provincial and federal is that you are able to transfer it to another person. So that's always an option. So I do recommend if you're late in the game and you didn't get a spot and you go on and you can't find one, sometimes you can get one midweek. They're a little bit easier,
Yeah.
but definitely look at those sites or even go on and say, I'm looking for a site. If anybody needs to cancel, let me know. I'd love to buy it from you or transfer it over. So that would be the big things first is where are we going?
Yeah.
Then you have to figure out how are we going to stay alive when we're there?
Important. Yeah.
Yes,
And
key.
this is, sorry?
It's key.
It is very key. We need to stay alive. So, and this is for hiking or backpacking, is you're thinking about your shelter, your water, heat, navigation, and food.
Mm-hmm.
Food is probably, believe it or not, I can't believe I'm saying it because I'm a foodie, but food is probably the least important.
Fair.
Right?
Yeah.
You need your water, you need something to keep you sheltered. Or even if it's just, an emergency blanket, it's something. You need your water. You need to know where you are or where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the most important things. And you need to have something that you can warm up especially if it's cooler. And hypothermia is possible even in the middle of summer. If you get cold, if you get damp, it gets into the evening, it's very easy. So you want to make sure you have those things. Even if you just think you're going for a day hike, it's always nice to have a couple of things in your backpack for that emergency. I recommend a water filter, an emergency blanket. And the good thing about most of the places that I go is that you can either have your GPS on your phone but you can purchase or rent emergency GPS where it's just got an SOS button on it. And, or, you know, if you're good at with a compass, but most people need training for a compass too. So the good thing is, you know, if you're going to go somewhere, make sure, and you're not familiar how to use a compass and a map, make sure you're going somewhere where there's marked trails.
Yeah, for sure.
That would be probably my biggest recommendation.
Yeah.
So shelter is the big one for backpacking.
Mm-hmm.
So many different varieties. Tents, hammocks, some people cowboy camp, which just means they just sleep in their sleeping bag under the stars. I don't know if I could handle, I like my privacy and I like the fact that I can zip unwanted critters out of my tent.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if I could do that. But, and then there's lots of options. So if you're going with somebody, how big do you need it? The number one thing to remember, especially if all you've ever done is car camping or what's called front country camping, and now all of a sudden you're going into the backcountry, weight becomes vitally important because you are carrying everything.
Yeah.
So you might think that, oh, my sleeping bag and my tent that I have, you know, my 4-man tent and my big heavy sleeping bag and my quilt and my pillow, and you know, you might think that that's wonderful to have, but when you have to carry that in a backpack, you have to start looking at every ounce starts counting. And even when you're kind of going, oh, it's only this, or it's only all of those 2 or 3 ounces, they keep adding up. And it can get heavy really fast, especially if you're used to some of the comforts of more car camping. It is quite different learning how to pack and what to purchase that's not extraordinarily expensive, but that's still lightweight, because that's the problem as well. The more ultra light you go and the lighter, the more expensive it gets. And I've learned that I thought backpacking was going to be kind of an inexpensive hobby. No, once you get started, you want to keep buying stuff. It's like all these neat little things, but shelter, that's a big one. So you've got your shelter, your tents, your sleeping bags, same thing. You know, and it's about doing research with them. Don't just go buy the first thing that you see. Don't, you know, really do some research on it. I recommend YouTube. That is what I used to start. And, you know, that you'll see top 5 important things you need in the backcountry. You know, it just, there's so many of those comparisons between this tent and this tent and this sleeping bag and this sleeping bag, so that you can really discover, okay, what's important to me? What's my non-negotiables? Like for me, the tent is the non-negotiable. I don't want to sleep in a hammock. I am not cowboy camping. So the tent was non-negotiable. So that's where I said, okay, I'm going to invest my money because I need a good night's sleep. Because anybody who knows me knows that if I'm tired, I'm probably not somebody that you want to be in the backcountry with all alone.
Right.
So my sleep system was really important to me. My tent, my sleep pad, my sleeping bag. I want to be warm, I want to be dry, and I want to feel comfortable and safe as you can in a tent.
Yeah.
So
what I've heard, Deb, so far is that I can't bring my pillows, so I think I'm just going to stay home. Thank you.
You know what? I purchased an inflatable pillow. And it's wonderful. I call it my luxury item, where a lot of people are like, oh, just have a stuff sack with your clothes in it. I'm like, no, because again, sleep is what's important to me. That was a non-negotiable. So I did my research and I bought a little inflatable pillow, and it comes down to about this big in my pack, the tiniest little thing. And I blow it up and it's got cushioning and it's perfect. And that's my luxury item. That was my non-negotiable.
Wonderful.
So that's the big thing about planning is how are you gonna sleep? Your sleep system, they call it the big 3 usually: your sleep pad, your sleeping bag, and your tent. Then of course there's water. Anywhere you hike now, anywhere in the world, you want to make sure you have some way to filter your water. So either something like a Sawyer filter, where you're just squeezing water through the filter from one device to another, or something like purification tablets. I have purification tablets in my emergency first aid kit, whether I go on a day hike or whether I go backpacking, just in case something happens to my filter. Your filter can freeze, you can lose the gasket on it, like that. So I always have a couple of purification, because that's really important. You don't want to end up with some sort of stomach issue in the middle of a backpacking trip.
No, you don't. No, that sounds horrible.
I don't want that in the middle of my apartment, let alone a backpacking trip.
Right? So, and then you want something fire starting. You want something so that if you didn't have purification or you didn't have a filter, you could boil water.
Right.
That's always an option as well, right? And then that's also dual purpose. Dual purpose is triple purpose. It also gives you light if you don't have lighting. I always carry my headlamp too, even if I'm going for a day hike. And it's heat. If you need heat, it's something. And then of course to cook or to boil water if you need to do something like that. So that's the big ones: shelter, water, heat, your navigation, and as I said, when you're first starting, stick to marked trails, whatever they are. And then your food. And for your first couple, if you're only going on an overnight, keep it simple. Have your snacks, have a breakfast bar, maybe some oatmeal that's packed in a little container, the quick oats, something like that. Have a wrap. If you're just doing the overnight, it's not like you have to carry 5 days worth of food and you have to make it as light as possible. So that's kind of where I am right now. I'm starting a lot of dehydrating for my backpacking trips this summer. And that's the whole purpose, is when you're going 5 and 10 days, you want to make sure that what you're carrying is as light as possible. So, but when you're first starting, just keep it simple. Make sure you have enough nutrients to get you through, a day of hiking overnight the next day. So that would be, and it does feel overwhelming sometimes, but if you take it one step at a time, there is so much online for backpacking now. Checklists, YouTube channels, any of the big outfitters, MEC, REI in the States, any of those, you can go on and they will you can print off checklists. There's
awesome.
some phenomenal. And then you can search up the actual trails as well on YouTube. And a lot of YouTubers out there have recorded what the trails have been like. So if you're curious about a particular trail and you want to learn more about it, go on YouTube. It was a huge resource for me. I binge watch so much, and I'm doing it now. I always do it in the winter time because I'm trying to get my hiking fix before I get back out there. I haven't gone to the winter hiking yet. I can't do winter hiking yet. I'm not there.
The internet can be used for good. The internet can definitely be used for good.
It can, and for me, I find that a fun way to spend my time as opposed to scrolling social media, to actually, right now I'm following a couple of people who have just started the Appalachian Trail, and, it's really cool. Appalachian, depends on if you're in Canada or the States. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know we're in the same Facebook group, Deb, for hiking in Nova Scotia, and there's a lot of great people in there that will give you advice and even give you like current-ish trail conditions, and I'll link that group too in the description so that you can join it if you're interested, because it's a really good information group with just a lot of people who are really generous and share all the information they have.
Yes. And like I said, the same thing, if there's a particular trail, if you search it, there's probably a Facebook group.
Someone's done it. Yeah.
So the other thing I definitely recommend, and I briefly mentioned it, is the All Trails app.
Yes.
That is phenomenal, where you can just go on and pick your area and you can pick your parameters. Do you want something over 50 kilometers, under 10? Do you want it backpacking, hiking, dog friendly, whatever it is? And you would be shocked at how many trails are around you when you pull that up and just go search trails near me. Hundreds around that I had no idea even existed. So I definitely recommend that All Trails app.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about some of your favorite overnighting hikes that you've done, if you can narrow it down.
Oh, I can narrow it down for sure. Last year I did 3 that were really special to me. I did Chignecto. I just did a one-night hike at Cape Chignecto. That's the provincial park in Nova Scotia. And I just went from what was called Eatonville campsite. There's a parking lot there, to Seal Cove, which is about a 6-kilometer hike. And I did that with my 2 boys.
No.
So I was the only adult. So not only was I responsible for me, but I was responsible for both boys. They were, I guess, 8 and 10 at the time when we did it. And it was very challenging for them because they had to carry stuff on their back. And it wasn't just a 6-kilometer, nice little hike. We're going up a mountain. We're walking along the edge of cliffs. We're looking at the ocean. That was really special to me to be able to do that with them. And it's one that I recommend if somebody wants to try a one night where they are going into more wilderness, to do that one where you can do the entire loop. And that was the other hike that I did last year that I loved. I did do the entire 53-kilometer Chignecto loop. That took us 4 days, 3 nights. But if you just want to start small, take a half of a day or 3/4 of a day to go from Eatonville to Seal Cove is a really nice one. And the other hike I did last year was my longest hike I've done. That was 62 kilometers, and that was the Dobson Trail in New Brunswick. I did that last fall, and that was pretty amazing. We did that in 2 nights and 3 days. It was a little flatter. There was one extremely exhausting day, but it was really cool to be able to do those, do some of those longer hikes. So yeah, it was exciting.
That's awesome. And I think that's really great too, to like be able to, you mentioned your great hiking partner, but also really great to memories to share with your kids as well. That's really special. And obviously to me, it sounds like you've been sort of like over the winter, like getting ready for this. So talk to us about like what you might have planned for upcoming season.
So I have a couple of smaller overnight hikes coming up here in the next couple of weeks. I know it's a little cool in the evenings, but we're going for it just to kind of get our hiking legs back and to get used to carrying the stuff. We're testing out some meals. I've kind of on a meal kick these days where I'm making lots of different recipes. So we're testing those out. So just some overnights. We're going to do Crowbar Lake Trail, which is by Porter's Lake. Okay. There's a couple of really nice trails in there. There's Bluff. I think, Jen, you might have done the Bluff before, so we're thinking about doing that one.
Yeah.
In June, I am taking my youngest boy, and we are doing the entire 53-kilometer Cape Chignecto.
Woo!
He wanted to do it last year, and I hadn't done it yet, so I'm like, let mom do it first.
Yeah.
I said, and if you keep hiking and you want to keep doing it, then next year, I promise you, thinking that he might just forget about it.
Right.
He has talked about it non-stop since.
Oh my gosh, that's so
Are we doing 5? And we're going to do 5 days. We're going to do 4 nights, 5 days, little legs. He's got to carry everything. So we're going to do an extra night, shorter days. And, but yeah, we are doing it in the middle of June. I am taking him out of school. I figure he will learn more with me in the backcountry than he will in June in grade 3. I don't know about you, but I didn't learn anything in June when I was at school. So that's a big one that I'm doing in June with him. And then myself and my hiking partner, we are doing the 167-kilometer hike. It's the Nebasquit Mi'kmaq Trail in New Brunswick. We're going to do Mount Carleton first. So that is the highest summit in the eastern provinces. Yep. So we're going to hike to the summit first, and then we're going to do the 150-kilometer trail back to Bathurst. So that's, they say anywhere from 6 to 12 days. So really depends. So we're kind of estimating 9. We're giving ourselves 10 just in case. And we're really excited about that one. So that's a big one. We want to do the Fundy Footpath in New Brunswick. And we're also looking at potentially doing the seawall in Cape Breton, which is supposed to be absolutely spectacular. I've only ever seen photos, and I'm like, I want to go there. And my hiking partner, she's from Cape Breton, and she definitely wants to go there. So I'm shouting out to Angela because she's the backbone. We hike so well together, and if it wasn't for her, I may not have ever gotten out. If she said no to me when I asked
okay. Oh, Angela.
That's so funny. Yeah, I have done the Bluff Trail, and it's funny just you giving the advice to people, because when I did the Bluff Trail, it was back in, oh my gosh, I was like 23. And so like 2012, I think we did it. And my best friend and her boyfriend at the time texted me, and she was like, oh, we're gonna do an overnight camping trip with a hike. And do you want to come? And I was like, sure. And it was like in like 2 days. And so I went and bought a backpack. My husband already had one. I think we borrowed a tent from somebody, and we were like, okay, we're doing it. And so
off we go.
No planning. I was not working out at all at that point. Like I had done a couple of hikes, but nothing like this. And we definitely thought we would make it a lot further than we actually did, right? Because it's so different carrying stuff on your back than it is just day hiking. And I feel like we also started later in the day than we should have, because my best friend and her boyfriend at the time were driving from Liverpool into the city so that we could start. And it was all kinds of things working against us. But yeah, we went with them, and they had a dog and we had our dog. And we really did have like a lot of fun. Like despite all of our crazy not preparing, I think we just had like granola bars and a sandwich, but I mean, it was one night, so we were totally fine.
And
Fun.
I think that's, that's important to remember too. It's you still want to have fun. I'm very type A personality as well, so the planning was very important to me.
Yeah.
But it's at the same time when you go, it's like, let's see what happens. Let's
Yeah.
just, you have to be flexible, and you have to also be aware of when enough is enough and when it's time to stop, because
Yeah.
that's when injuries happen. That's when all of a sudden you might need to be rescued and things like that. If you're not really paying attention to how you're feeling, to the conditions around you,
Yeah.
you want to make sure you're really prepared for that. And the more people that are getting out on the trails, you're starting to hear of a lot more rescues, which of course goes hand in hand. But a lot of times it's when you just go out thinking, oh, it's just like a day hike. And for a lot of times, yeah, it is. It's just I'm sleeping and then it's 2 day hikes, and that's fine. But just be really careful. Do your research on the trail, because I have heard, something like the Fundy Footpath, where there's some extremely challenging parts of it. And some people have been rescued and they've talked about how they didn't realize just how tough it was.
Right. Yeah.
So it's really about doing the research on the app, on the Facebook groups. They'll tell you what level of difficulty it is and what you need to plan for, how many days you should plan for, that sort of thing. So
Yeah. It I feel like I was the most tired I'd ever been in my life by the time we like got back to the car the next morning, and like I had blisters on my feet, but I think what I really loved about it after it was finished was like the sense of accomplishment, and just like that really good tired feeling like I did something, and that was really cool. And we have a hike coming up in Scotland, and it's not an overnight hike, but it's an all day hike, and it's the highest summit in the UK. And I'm like really nervous because I'm having all of this time to like think about how how hard this might be. And I'm probably now it's been 10 years since I did the Bluff Trail. I'm in so much better shape now than I was then. And I'm like, okay, like I'm going to be fine. I know that I'm going to be fine, but before when we did the Bluff Trail, it was in 2 days. So you didn't have time to think about how hard it was.
You've had far too much time to ponder this is what the issue is.
I know. I mean,
you know how you like to plan, and you can't plan this because you don't know.
I don't know.
But you can be as prepared as possible though, and I know that you'll be fine.
I know. And like I'm going with my best friend, and she'll be married. We're going to her wedding, and then her parents are coming, and like, we're all gonna be just fine. But I've just gotten in my head about it now.
As a trainer, a lot of people have asked me, what can I do exercise-wise to prepare? And honestly, it's getting out and doing some smaller hikes.
Yeah.
Just getting out and walking, because nothing in a gym or in your home, not even a treadmill with an incline, can really give you the same practice that getting out on a trail would. So it's just finding smaller trails and getting out and trying to make them longer and longer. Find ones with hills, find ones with find ones that you have to kind of walk over, maybe you have to walk over some logs over a stream, things like that, so that you can really practice that sort of walking. Because it is, I mean, it's great. You want to be strong and you want to be healthy and you want to be cardiovascularly fit. So intervals, hill climbs on a treadmill, all that stuff is going to pay off.
Yeah.
But you will not, the best way to prepare your legs and your body for hiking is to get out and hike. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've only done overnight hiking once. It was 2009, so it's been like a long time. And it was a wet Labor Day weekend. I'll never forget. And we did
start of a story. That sounds like a good book.
Yeah. It was in Pollett's Cove in Cape Breton. So we did that hike. I was in great shape at the time. I'm in okay shape now, but I was even better. I was working at Good Life Fitness at the time, and I had a trainer, and I was in much, much better shape then. So that part wasn't the issue. But it had rained a lot before that. And unfortunately, the conditions weren't great in terms of the hiking conditions themselves. It wasn't pre-internet, but 2009, there wasn't a ton of stuff online. So research was not done. And, leading up to it, I thought, this isn't for you, dude. Like, why are you saying yes to this? And I went against my instinct, at that time. And I really shouldn't have. Anyway, it's a fun story to tell. I saw wild horses.
Yeah.
I saw beautiful stars that I'll probably never see again because I was so deep into the woods and there was no other light. Like there are memorable pieces for it, but I think something like this or any kind of like travel or when you're challenging yourself, you have to know what you enjoy. And obviously,
Exactly.
like you found a passion for this, and I think it's honestly incredibly admirable. I wish I wish I did, and I'm being completely honest. But in terms of this isn't my thing, but I've loved hearing about it. And I think all those things that you have going on, I think it's super exciting. I just know personally it's not for me. And that's okay.
And I hear that a lot because I'll tell some people what I'm doing and I get so excited and you can tell the look on their face. They truly think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think you're crazy at all. I think it's
yeah, okay,
fabulous.
sure. Go ahead and do that. Let me know how it goes. Or
I
I'll
mean,
invite them.
sure.
I'll be like, come on a hike with me. And they're like, no, you do great. I'm like, no. I mean, just a little hike. Little hike. I do know what little hikes are as well.
Remember little hikes. Yeah.
Little hikes. No, I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It's the adventure. And like Jen said, it's that sense of accomplishment of setting something in place and making a plan and, getting the maps and looking things up and getting details and seeing pictures and seeing videos and picturing yourself there and then experiencing it, even when it's hateful. And I've had hateful moments where I'm just like, if I walk one more step, I'm going to fall over. I just don't think I can do anymore. But then to get to the campsite at the end of the night and, we had one experience where it was the hardest day ever and we rounded the corner where we knew the campsite and there was already people there. There was lots of room for lots of other, and they already had a fire going.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it was just like you wouldn't. It was euphoria. There's people with a fire, and I don't have to go looking for sticks to build a fire. It was, and then to finish that hike, it was just those really cool moments in the midst of the herd, and that's when you realize how amazing things are. You see the scenery, you're stepping through mud and you look up and then you see the ocean. And it's just this vast, and you forget about the mud for a few minutes because you're just going, oh my goodness. And it's those moments that are just, and then to finish and to hug your hiking partner and high fives and crying and the whole thing, just because it's such a relief that you've been able to do it. And it's such a sense of accomplishment. So whether
I'm going to go out on a limb and say, though, that at least one person who's going to listen to this podcast, you are going to inspire to go out and try something new. Honestly, your passion is amazing. And I think someone's going to listen to this. It's not going to be me, but someone's going to listen to this and they are going to be like, I'm serious, incredibly inspired. Like, thank you so much for sharing all this.
Thank you. I appreciate you asking me to come on board. And I'm doing a couple of YouTube videos myself from some of the hikes that I did. So hoping to get some of that footage up now in the next couple of weeks as well. So
where can people find you that might want to check you out, whether it's personal training wise, whether it's the hikes coming up? Tell us about that.
So my website is journey2wellness.ca and it's the digit 2. So Journey, the digit 2wellness.ca. I am on YouTube, Journey to Wellness with Deborah. Okay. And then I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, Deborah Peddle-Hann, Journey to Wellness with Deborah Peddle-Hann. So yeah, any of those places, I'm always posting there and sharing what I'm doing and lots of links to other areas. So if you're looking for something, you'll find me through one of those avenues. And my email address is also on my website and people are more than welcome to reach out. If you have any questions about any hikes that I've done, I will be happy to, anybody can message me and I love sharing, maybe too much as you can tell. As you can tell, I'm gonna stop talking now.
No, this has been great. And honestly, thank you so much for coming on. Jen, any parting words?
No, I'm feeling inspired. Now I want to go.
Maybe she's the one.
I'm sure it's gonna be more than me. But yeah, we have a couple of hikes that we are planning to do, not overnight hikes, but I really want to get back to Cape Split. My husband and I got engaged there in 2014 and we haven't gone back since. So I'm hoping that soon we'll get back.
And they've opened up the entire loop now. They did that last, I think August or September, they opened up the whole loop. I haven't done the second half yet. So that's my plan in the next week or two to be doing that.
I've done it. I've done a hike that you've not done.
See, there you go. go.
There you go.
Yeah, I did. I think it was, I can't remember, like September or October last year we did it. I thought it would be a bit more see the ocean from the loop, but it really isn't. Like you still
Okay.
have to do the lookouts. It's worth doing completely. It just wasn't exactly what we expected, but definitely still worth doing.
Good to know. Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Perfect. All right, everybody. You can find us on all the usual places. Our website, travelmugpodcast.com, Facebook and Instagram at the Travel Mug Podcast. You can support the show by buying us a coffee. And you'll get fun stuff like bloopers. I have a really fun blooper, I think, from the last episode to add. And
Probably.
yeah, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and share the show with a travel loving or hiking loving pal. And we'll talk to you again soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.